to say the Braunfels.
The Braunfels.
Booker T. Washington
Really?
Elementary. So,
how long have you been teaching, Mr. Roberson?
Teaching, this is going on my 10th year, but I've been at in the Justin Independent School District for 11 years.
11 years. And give me some background on yourself educationally.
Went to Fox Tech High School. I don't know what year that was, 1980, 81. And then I graduated from Southwest High School and then went to New Mexico State University on a basketball scholarship. And then that's about it.
Okay. And so after that, did you play, because you're a pretty tall guy, did you play sports, obviously, a little bit?
I did play basketball. Like I said, I got a scholarship from New Mexico State University. Went overseas for 1 year to play professional basketball. Then I came back and I graduated that following year and got my bachelor's in journalism of all places.
Really? So you're a journalism guy?
Radio and television productions, correct.
So then, right after that, is that when you started teaching?
No, actually, I started teaching. It was a few years in between. When I retired, I had some other issues going on, and then got into it about 3 or 4 years after I.
What did you do? What did you retire from?
Professional basketball. Yes.
Okay, so you retired from professional basketball,
correct.
Then went into teaching.
Yes.
Okay. Now I got it. So you are working at Judson ISD, and you've always worked at Karen Wagner High School.
Correct.
And what has been your overall experience at Wagner High?
It's been awesome. I know we've had a little bit of bad press, but overall, we have some really good kids at Wagner High School, and for me, it's been an awesome experience because it's allowed me to come to work every day, looking forward to coming to work and seeing the kids and interacting with the kids and things of that nature, and educating them in the way that I do.
And you teach multimedia technology, is that the correct class?
Visual design is the correct term, but what I do is I teach Adobe, Photoshop, Illustrator, Flash, and Dreamweaver to the kids. So different facets of multimedia.
And in speaking with you prior to this interview, you talked about your teaching style. How would you describe it?
I'm not the typical stand up in front of the classroom type teacher and having the kids take notes. I like to engage the kids and like to get their feedback. And so when I do that, it allows me to see where I want to take the class as far as education-wise. And so we do follow the TEKS, but it's more about me allowing the kids to express themselves and then letting the class go from there. So, and then I kind of take control and kind of figure out what I want to do as far as leading the kids in a direction, and we try to figure out what we're going to do from there.
In your class, although it's graphically based, it does not always end there. There are lessons that you teach outside of that. Am I correct?
What we do, and this is just how I am as a teacher, I believe we got to get these kids prepared for real world activities. And so I like to engage the kids in real world type scenarios. And so for me, it's good for me to allow them to experience on both sides of the fence. What I mean by that is being in the classroom is one thing, but being in the real world is a totally different. It's a totally different thing. It allows. How can I say this? It allows like free expression for the kids, and allows them to actually get in there and use their mind to create. I don't know how I want to say this. It allows them to use their own mind to. I'm having like a little freeze right now.
That's okay.
How can I explain this?
It sounds like you're creating an atmosphere for them to be creative.
Correct. And I mean that's what it's all about as far as creativity for me. So the kids, I've never had like stage fright before.
It's just really. I tell people this is like going
crazy.
to McDonald's with the guy with the suit on. It's really.
Exactly.
I'm here to take your order. I promise.
Gotcha.
Okay.
No, it's my kids. I'll give you a real good scenario. We were in class one day, and they were looking at me like a deer in headlights. And so I wanted to get them in a position to understand that they need to. If they want to be successful in life, they have to learn how to deal with the real world. So we went out on a field trip, and I was talking to them about creating their own business and things like that, because I don't want them to be in a position to where they are struggling the rest of their life. And that's what a lot of our kids do. We have like a really high percentage of kids who don't graduate from high school. We have an even larger percentage of kids who don't graduate from college. And so you have these kids that are going to have a rough road ahead. And so we see a lot of kids coming back and forth 2-3 years later, coming back to get their transcripts, try to get into college, to try to go to the military. And so for me, it's like about preparation. We're not preparing our kids the correct way to deal with the real world. And that's kind of what I want to do in my classroom, is try to get them to understand that there is a tough road ahead of them in the real world. So.
And sometimes your class is an extension of lessons of history.
Mm-hmm.
There's this billboard, I guess you have, or not a billboard. Yeah, it is a billboard that you put up as teachers. We all know
Mm-hmm.
teachers put up boards,
Mm-hmm.
and they're seasonal, educational. They have adages, all of those kinds of things. Yours has become pretty famous within the school amongst your students.
We always do a lot of different projects for different type of events, whether it's Black History Month, whether it's Hispanic Heritage Month, whether it's Cinco de Mayo, whether it's the Fiesta, whether it's Christmas, whether it's Thanksgiving. And so outside of my wall, outside of my classroom, we have a big wall where we display that for the whole entire school to see. And so this year we had a project which is caused all this controversy, which is over Black history. And for the past few years, we've never really done anything as far as Black history in our school. And so for me, it was just it was different that during Hispanic Heritage Month, the whole entire school is steeped in traditions of Hispanic heritage. And so when it gets to our time, nothing is really done. And so normally it's just my wall outside of my classroom that has all the Black history. And except for the special ed, they also do a little wall on their side. But pretty much there's nothing else done. And so this year we did a piece on stolen legacy. And I think that's the whole issue of what's going on with Karen Wagner High School right now.
And the stolen legacy, if you will, put it in a capsule for us. It is about ancient Egypt, or how would you describe it?
Not just about ancient Egypt, but the history of where Black people come from. Like I was told, our history did not start from slavery. And so we have some people at the school who told me that the kids should be learning this type of history because it's not our history. Our history started from slavery, and they should be learning about Rosa Parks and slavery. And so for me, that was it was a bad choice of words, because our history did not start in slavery. Our history is way beyond that. So, and that's what I wanted the kids to understand. I wanted them to explore those type of stories. And so each child had a different inventor, is what it was in my classroom. They had a different inventor, and they went through and they figured out what inventions that Black people created. And so when you start going through and you start realizing that there was a lot of things that we created that we don't get credit for, that caused a lot of problems. And so one of the teachers told me that, well, we hope you aren't going to put up anything about Black inventions that were taken by other people. So that was kind of irritating within itself.
So this wall is what in your opinion, created the bad seed that started to harvest at Wagner High School?
It started that. I would say that's what started it.
Okay. Fast forward to the Black History program. The students approach you to do a Black History program, or
Correct.
Or are you the person who decides to initiate the Black History program?
We have a lot of challenges when it comes to doing things at the school, and it really seems like anytime the African American kids want to do things, things are always put off. The kids know that they can come to me because I'm kind of an advocate for the kids, but you need a sponsor in order to get things done, a teacher to oversee everything. And so they were trying to get a step show, a praise dancing, a poetry set done, and they went and asked the principal if they can get this done, and she said, well, you need a sponsor. Well, no one wanted to help the kids out, so of course the kids come to me and they asked me if I would be the sponsor. So they wanted me to help them. It was like the middle of the month, and I said I couldn't do anything at that time because I was not going to be in town. So I got back on the 21st of February, and we came in, we sat down, and we had a talk about what was going on. And the show was going to be on the 27th. So I told the kids, I said, look, you really don't have like 3 or 4 days to like promote this thing. I said, so because you have the weekend, which is Saturday and Sunday, so that's 2 days that's gone. You're not going to be able to do anything Monday because Monday we're in school. So we really only have Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday to promote this. So we sat down after school on that Monday and decided, I asked them, I said, well, what is the popular song right now? Because we got to connect with these kids somehow in order to get the interest built up. And so they said, well, the popular song right now is Black and Boujee. I said, well, that's perfect. I said, this is Black History Month. Why not change it to Black and Boujee? And so they all got excited about it. Said, yeah, that's it. I said, so what I'll do is I said, I'll create the poster. I'll start writing some lyrics. I said, because we're not going to use those lyrics because the lyrics are absolutely horrible. I said, so let me work on this tonight and I'll get back with you guys tomorrow. So I worked on the poster the whole night, worked on the rap the whole night as well. I finished the poster about a day. The next day, I think I finished it before lunchtime because I printed the posters out and we had put them up at lunchtime. And so when I went to lunch, I had B lunch, which is the second lunch. I had B lunch, and when I leave, I get coworkers calling me, telling me that the administration was taking down my posters. And so I'm kind of frustrated, trying to figure out why are you taking the posters down? And so when I get back from lunch, I go and I approach the principal and I ask her why she took down my posters. And she says, I say, we're trying to get the kids interested in the show. And that's exactly what happened before is once I put the posters up, all the kids start gravitating to the posters and they start getting really excited about it and wanted to come. And so when I asked her why she took the posters down, she told me because of the word bougie. And the first thing she told me that there was a parent complaint and that they saw the poster and that the poster was offensive. And so then when I asked her, I said, well, what's offensive about the poster? And she told me the word bougie. I kind of looked at her like really strange, like, you got to be kidding me. I said, what's wrong with the word bougie? And she said it's just offensive. One of the parents, she has a lot of problems with parents, and so she says, I don't want this to be another issue. I just want this to, kind of go away. I said, but there's nothing wrong with the word. And she said, well, I wasn't there to explain it for the parents, so we just took them down because I had a directive after I sent it to HR. So I said, well, that makes no sense. So she told me to go and she says, well, if you want to, you can write an email to my boss, which is the associate superintendent. So I went and I actually called her and I asked her with another teacher standing right next to me. And I said, did you give the principal a directive to take down my posters? And she says, Mr. Roberson, just write your report. I said, no. I said, I'm asking you as a friend. I said, did you give her a directive to take down my posters? And she says, just write your report. So I hung up the phone, and the other teacher that was standing next to me, she says, she doesn't know what's going on. I said, I know. I said, this is really irritating me. So I went back to my classroom, and I wrote an email to her, and essentially, long story short, I said, first of all, I will tell you that I am an educator. I'm not an indoctrinator. I said, so if it's wrong for me, I said, the word bougie means high class, it means fancy, it means rich, it means elite, it means balling, flossing, and all that kind of stuff. And so I said, if it's wrong for me to think of get my kids to think of themselves as black and fancy or black and rich, black and high class, and I said, then I guess I'm just wrong as an educator. I said, but that's a stance that I'm willing to take. And so when I put that in there, I said, I'll wait your decision to kind of figure out what's going on with this, the poster, so we can put them back up. So I waited about 30 or 45 minutes. I copied the superintendent, I copied Miss Toppin, and also copied my lawyer on this as well. And I waited and went back in there, and I asked her, is there a decision yet? And she says, well, there's no decision yet, but I read your email. I said, okay. She says, if you had to just say that in the first place, then there'd be no issue. I said, what are you talking about? She says, just change it to black and fancy or black and high class. I said, I'm not going to do that. I said, it makes no sense for me to do that. I said, plus it doesn't go with the words of the song. And so she went and she showed me on her phone in the Urban Dictionary the word for bougie. And underneath it, it had the lyrics to Bad and Boujee. And so I'm sitting there, I'm like, you got to be kidding me. You're using this as your source of reference as a former English teacher, a former English teacher department head, a former middle school principal, and now a high school principal, and you're going to use this as your source to tell me that this word is bad when it comes from a word which means bourgeois. And I said, forget it. I'm not going to deal with this anymore. And so I got really irritated because it seemed like there was roadblock after roadblock after roadblock. And so for me, I told the kids, I said, I'm going to cancel this. I said, because I'm not going to deal with all this stress. We have like 3 days to get this done. So the kids got really upset because they had put a lot of time in this. And so for me, I wanted to, I went back and I reevaluated. I said, you know what? I said, you can't do this to the kids. I said, they've already been, facing different kind of obstacles, different kind of challenges and things like that. And I said, so let's try to see if we can make this happen. So I told the kids, I said, let's just deal with this. So one of the problems we were having problems because one of the big selling points, we wanted to get a step show for the kids. And everyone kept canceling as far as the different kind of fraternities and sororities and stuff. So I called one of my friends who actually got the steppers from Texas State to come down, and the Q Dogs. They came down and they performed for us as well. So we had an awesome show. Q Dogs, we had the praise dancing, we had poetry, we had singing, we had our show. And so when we had the show, everyone was absolutely excited about what we did because it was educational. We had educational pieces in there. Actually, one of the things that they showed us at the beginning of the school year was how education was being put on trial and how we can't do things the traditional way because we're not in traditional times and things of that nature. So everything was absolutely fantastic. And so I go up to her at the end of the show and I say, well, how did you like the show? And she says, the kids did fantastic. And so she kind of gave me that look and I was like, you know what? I said, I'm done with this. So I leave and I go. After we picked up everything, we left and came back to school the next day. And I'm in class and she comes kind of excited in my classroom about 1:40 and telling me that I'm requested at HR. And I'm like, at HR? HR for what? And she says, oh, I don't know. but you have a meeting at 2 o'clock. So I go to HR, and that's where everything happens.
Okay, so the night of the performance, February 27th?
27th, correct.
February 27th, you did perform, or the students did perform, the production of Black and Boujee, the rewritten version.
The students did not perform it.
Okay.
I performed it because when you look on the poster says, it said Migo and Little Uzi Vert, which are not the real people. The real people are the Migos and Uzi Vert. And so I already knew that I was going to be one of the performers, and then one of my other fellow co-workers, he also was going to be the other performer. And so we performed the song.
So you are the guy in the wig and the...
Yes.
So that's you.
That's me, yes.
And then the guy with the braids is your coworker?
That's my coworker, correct.
Okay, so these are not students.
These are not students.
This is you all performing the song for the student body.
Correct.
And the student body had printed programs which had the rewritten lyrics on
Correct. And before the show even started, and I guess this is really what's irritating me, is the fact that the principal and the assistant principal were in the audience. They were there at the show. And before I started, I gave them a little history as far as who I was, as far as a parent. And I told them that I did not agree with the lyrics that were on this song, and that I changed the lyrics of the song. I told them I did not agree with the way they portray black people in movies, how they portray us in videos, how they portray us in music and things of that nature, because we're more than drug dealers, we're more than, things that we call women. I said, we're more than that. And so I said, and so I hope by this performance, you guys will understand that we can do things a little bit better. And so I performed the song. And so on the back of the program, I had the chorus to the song that everyone sings, because everyone always sings the chorus. So I put the chorus on the back of the song. That everyone had the lyrics. I printed out 150 programs. I didn't get a chance to print on the inside cover because we're only allotted so much money a month, and I ran out of money by printing these things. So we had 150 programs. She said that we didn't have enough programs for everyone. We definitely had enough programs for everyone, because there were only about 100 people in attendance.
Okay. So I've got the rest of the story in your 16-page letter here. And it ends with you being placed on administrative leave. Then you are transferred to Veterans High School.
Correct.
You are then out of town because your son is a professional basketball player with the Thunder. And that's when you learn that there's a hearing about your position, and your contract is probably not going to be renewed. So the board then votes for your contract not to be renewed at the end of this school year, all because of the Black and Boujee Black History program.
Correct.
So let me ask you this. Hindsight 2020, would you do this all over again?
Most definitely. I would. Because the reason I'm here is I can't have anyone lie on me. I'm not going to stop teaching the way I teach, because I think the way I teach allows kids to explore their minds and their possibilities. My whole deal was when she came and she told me I had to go to HR. When I went to HR and I sat down with the human resources chief and another gentleman that was there as well that worked for HR. This woman sat down in front of me and she slid the lyrics to Black and Boujee in front of me. And I looked at her and I said, "What is this?" She says, "These were the lyrics that you were singing on stage last night." I said, "No, they weren't." She says, "Mr. Roberson, are you sure these are not the lyrics?" I said, "I guarantee these aren't the lyrics." I said, I made my own song. And she says, "Mr. Roberson, so no part of this song was playing last night?" I said, "The only part that was playing was the instrumental. I made my own lyrics. Do I got to rap them for you?" And so she says, "Yeah, rap them for me." So I proceeded to rap the same thing that I did the night before. And then she says, "Oh, you're pretty good at this." And so I said, "You know what?" I said, "Hold on one second." So what she was told that I was on stage cursing and singing the song Bad and Boujee, and that I had the kids in the audience cursing and singing a song. And so one of my friends had tagged me in a Facebook video. And so I pulled up the video and I gave her my phone so she could hear the words as clear as day. I said, "You listen to this." And she listened to the whole thing. And when she got done, I said, "You tell me where you heard me cursing on stage. You tell me where you heard my kids or the kids in the audience cursing in the audience." And her mouth dropped and she says, "Mr. Roberson, just get your statement together." I said, "Don't worry, you're about to get a book." I said, "Because I'm tired of people telling me what I've done when I know I haven't done anything." And so they wanted me to sign an administrative leave, which I did not sign an administrative leave form. And so that's what led up to the hearings. That's what led up to me going over and then relocating me to veterans. This is after about a month and a half almost, because I was placed on administrative leave on February 28th, and I did not go over to veterans until April 12th.
Do you think that Bad and Boujee was the best choice of songs? I mean, because you yourself admit, I mean, I saw the lyrics, B-word, N-word, they're talking, calling women out of their names. They're talking about mixing drugs with an Uzi, which is a gun. All kinds of messages that are counterproductive to what some would say any individual should have in their lives. Do you think that that was the best road to take because you are the educator, you are the leader in this class, you are the leader of this program.
Correct.
Do you think that was the best way?
The best way, I would not say it was probably the best way, but under the circumstances that we were under and trying to get these kids who was trying to raise money to buy presents for project graduation and things of that nature, we were sitting there brainstorming, trying to figure out what we needed to do in order to get kids to come to the auditorium, to get kids to come to the performance and things of that nature. And so one of the things that relates well with our kids is music. And so for me to tell them that I'm going to change this into a positive song, I don't see what the problem was, because we weren't using that song as was stated by our administration.
Okay.
If you look at that, I mean, you're looking at, I wasn't the only one who's done that. I mean, you have popular businesses that do the same thing with Kids Bop's music, taking the same songs and remaking them for little kids. I mean, we can't tell the kids what to sing. We can't tell the kids what to say. And if that's the case and we're trying to micromanage everything in that fashion, then you can't have music at basketball games, you can't have music at football games, you can't have music at the proms, which is what they were at last night, because the kids are going to say what they want to say. We can't control that. What we can control is how to figure out, hey, what kind of message do we want to get out there? What kind of positive message do we want to get out there to the kids and get them to understand?
Even though you rewrote the song, according to the district, some of the kids in the audience, the student body that night, who were present, were still singing the lewd lyrics of Bad and Boujee, which is the original song which you rewrote. Do you recall that at all?
Here's my deal. You just said the operative words, according to the district. I've already told you that I didn't sing that.
No, I'm not asking if you saw it, sang it. Did you recall as being the person up on the stage performing? Because you know you're in the room, you hear the music, you see the crowd, the kids are into the music. Do you recall any of them spitting out any of these lewd lyrics, B words, N words?
Not at all.
None of that.
Not at all. I've asked the coaches who were in attendance. I've asked the the guy who was performing with me, his wife and his little kids were in the audience as well. I've asked my friends, I said, was there anybody in the audience cursing? They said there was nobody in the audience cursing.
Mm-hmm.
And so, again, you know, according to the district, I was on stage cursing and singing the song to Bad and Boujee. So, or singing the song Bad and Boujee. When you hear the actual video, you know that's a lie. And so, if they lie about that, then how do you think they're also going to get their narrative out there?
Do you think that you were insubordinate? Because according to their letter here, you were insubordinate, failed to comply with official directives, which I guess would apply to changing the name of the program, and their version of the story is that they asked you to take the posters down, and someone claims that you put them back up. They said you failed to comply with board policies, administrative regulations, failure to meet the district's standards of professional conduct, and failed to maintain an effective working relationship or maintain a good rapport with the parents, the community, or colleagues. What do you say about that?
I laugh at it because it took a month and a half to come up with something to try to figure out how can we get this guy out. When all of this took place, my kids were contacting me, telling me, sir, they're making us do this, they're making us do that, things that had nothing to do with education, as far as what we do as far as graphic design. So I'm saying that to say they had to find something in a month and a half to try to figure out what can we do to get this guy out. If you look at the insubordination is I'm not changing the posters because I've already printed out 10 posters. If you know anything about graphic design, you know the ink is expensive, you know the paper is expensive. We don't have that kind of money in our budget to do that kind of stuff, so I have to go and buy a lot of stuff myself. So for me, I'm not going to go spend any more money to reprint these posters because one, it's not needed. The word bougie is not bad.
Even if your boss tells you.
If she doesn't understand what the word meant.
But it's not. I don't think it's about understanding her comprehension. Based upon what I'm reading and based upon what I'm hearing, I heard a directive, and it sounds like you failed to follow the directive, but you were standing your ground for the children.
Correct.
That's what I'm hearing. Okay, I just wanted to be sure I was clear.
That's it. I mean, and for me, the directive as far as, and I'm waiting to get this proved, and I will find this out at the hearing, because I want to know who the parents are, because I really believe I know who the parents are, and the parents are the same people that are colluding to get me out of the school.
So you are appealing?
Yes, most definitely.
Okay.
And so when that comes out, then you'll understand why, because as soon as I put the posters up, one of the administrators, who also was a parent, came up and was looking at the posters. For them to say that I put the posters back up is another lie, because I never put the posters back up. So she, in the report, if you go and you read it, you'll see that she says that I put the posters back up before the show. I didn't. The posters were put up by somebody else. She can go and she can check the video. The video sits right there in front of the auditorium and lets you know exactly who did it. So for her to say that I did it is absolutely insane. For her to say that I told someone to do it would be insane.
There are a lot of students who seem to be behind you in this effort. As a matter of fact, there's a rally for you this Friday. There's a blackout that's going on today at school. How does this situation make you feel as an instructor? I mean, does this whole situation hurt you? Where does it fall for you emotionally?
It's very humbling, because anyone who knows me, knows my family, knows how we are as people. And for me to have former students, for me to have my current students, even the students who I was just over there with at Veterans High School for 3-4 days, for them to be doing the things that they're doing shows me the kind of impact that I have on people. And if it's in a positive direction, I have no problem with that at all. And like I said, this is very humbling. It was actually interesting going up to my son's game, and I was sitting up there reading all of the Facebook comments and everything like that, and it was really emotional, just reading how people think and thought of you. And so for me, it's a positive, and I hope this whole outcome becomes a positive as well.
Okay, I know I need to wrap this up for you. I just have a couple of more questions. How has this affected you personally? 10 years in, and you believe you're trying to do the right thing, and all of a sudden you have the rug pulled from under your feet.
It's irritating, because I know that this whole issue has nothing to do with education. I know this is a very personal issue that's going on. And when the truth comes out, everyone will see what the deal is.
Final question. I was talking to a friend of mine who said that educators often have to make the choice. It's either career or children. You think this is true?
Every morning I get up, my kids always ask me, why are you so happy to be at school? I said, one, no one really knows my story. I've only told my story to a few people. I said, so if you understand why I come to school every single day, it's a blessing for me, because I almost threw away something that was very sentimental. And so for me to come in and be able to affect kids' lives in a positive direction, in a positive manner, it's great for me. And so it's a blessing for me to go and be able to teach kids and allow them to explore, and allow myself to become a mentor to a lot of kids who I know are struggling at home and things of that nature. So for me, it's a positive.
Thank you, sir. So I guess you'll be out there Friday with them?
They want me to be out there. I'm going to talk to my counselor and figure out what's going on from there. So
what's the best road for you to take? How old are you, Mr. Roberson?
Just turned 50 this year.
Really? Okay. And you are father of how many kids?
7 kids.
7 kids.
5 girls and 2 boys. Correct.
And if I'm reading correctly, if I look at the Wagner website, is your wife a teacher at the school?
She works in administrative offices, so she's there as well. And then my daughter is basketball/volleyball coach.
At the same
At
school?
the same school.
That must be awfully uncomfortable.
It is. It's different because, I'm not there, and because I've been banned from the school, which is absolutely insane. But it is what it is. And so I just make sure that they're okay every single day, and then we just take it from there. So, but yeah, it's a little challenging. It's challenging. So, but we're gonna make it through. Nothing we can't get through.
Amen.
Amen. Just getting kind of talking.
So I guess you were the one who planted the basketball.
Kind of, sort of, but my wife was a really good athlete as well.
Okay.
Yeah, she was a player, and she was also a basketball player as well. So, college
Sweetheart.
Yes.
And blossomed into 7 kids.
Yes.
Man, that is the good old-fashioned family.
From someone who said saying I wanted 10 kids, and we wound up with 7. So.
And what's the breakdown of girl and boys?
5 girls, 2 boys.
Wow.
Yes, they're an absolute blessing. So we have 2 generations. So we have the first 5.
You just, I guess, lay low at this particular point, figure out what you're going to do with your counsel.
Correct.
And you all have 15 days to appeal. And then within the appeal, if I remember reading correctly, you can determine whether you want it to be an open proceeding or closed proceeding. Wow.
And we'll decide that after we sit down and we talk about it. So.
Just one more.
Yeah, I know I've come from a line of educators and got some good coaches down the line, and education's different.
It is. There's a video that we were shown at the beginning of the year, and it's called "We Can't Teach All the Kids the Same," and it's about a goldfish and why we don't make goldfish climb trees. And you know, it's a really powerful video that I showed the kids, I showed the parents, and like I said, it was showed to us at the beginning of the year, and it had us thinking like, hey, yeah, the things that we're doing 100 years ago, we can't do the same way. You know, the same cars that you have 100 years ago are not the same cars that we have today. But education, when you look at education, the same thing we did in education 100 years ago is the same thing we're doing right now. And so with times changing the way they do, we have to figure out a way to reach these kids. And so, because they're falling through the cracks. When I tell you that, you know, we're looking at over 86% of our students who are not gonna ever have a chance to do anything with their lives, that's not a good thing. That's not a good thing. And so the system, in a sense, is failing. You know, what I do as far as education, as far as